Welcome to another episode of the podcast with me, George Chintankwa Malipilo. It's been quite a long time since I decided to record an episode on issues relating, incidental, or connected to the law. A lot has happened since my last episode, and I went silent without any warning or without any notice, which first of all, I do apologize. I have had a lot going on in my life since that period, and I still have a lot going on, but I thought I would basically just reassure those of you that thought that the podcast had come to a definite end, that the podcast is still around, and that we are going to be recording more and more and more episodes. So you better be excited, like I am. Yes. So during the break that I had from the podcast, I had a chance to reflect and review on the podcast, and a lot of people also gave me their reflection on the podcast, having listened to it. And I was given some tips, and I was also advised on what I should do to make the podcast better. And as a result of that, it led me to have a critical look at the podcast and its overview. And as a result, I decided to change the name of the podcast. This was because I felt the Untitled Legal Attempt, despite being a catchy and cool podcast, it didn't have a meaning. Like, if someone had to ask me, what's the Untitled Legal Attempt, without telling us that it's a legal podcast. So I decided to find a name that was more simple and straight to the point. So I ended up with My 2 Cents, a Zambian case law podcast. My 2 cents being me expressing my opinion, and of course a Zambian case law podcast. It's simple. It's a podcast about case law. So having changed the name, the structure of the podcast hasn't changed, and also the content that will be given out hasn't changed. Only the name has changed, and it allows me to say that the podcast name and the objectives are intertwined or interlinked, because the whole essence is just to give Zambians an understanding of Zambian case law. For those law students that want a quick revision on a case, I know how busy you are, and how untidy case law can become because of the amount of hours or pages that are contained. So that is the target market, and it won't change. It's also selling Zambian cases to the world, like the millions of cases I've seen on YouTube relating to American cases or British cases. So I thought I would do the same. So the other feature that you would now notice going forward is the inclusion of more criminal cases. If you look at my previous podcast, we were all talking about civil cases. For those of you that don't understand what this means, what I'm essentially saying is, in law, there are offenses you commit against the state, and you are arrested, and you're then taken to court. At court, you will be an alleged accused person. The burden of proof will kick in with the prosecution to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt at the end of the case. So your job is basically to deny the offense. So that is case law on a criminal basis, which we never used to do that much, relating to offenses, being taken to court, being asked if you plead guilty to the accusations by the state, the people, that you've committed a crime against the penal code of our republic, and you are a danger to society. So as a result of that, I thought there was need to have a balance between civil and criminal law. So hence bringing in criminal law. Hopefully you've understood the meaning of criminal law, which I was trying to put across. So on the civil aspect, I'm sure people understand it's just a dispute between two people that has arisen as a result of a violation of your human rights, or as a violation out of a breach of contract. So going forward, we will have a fair balance of the two. It will be one episode per criminal and per civil. Also, I've decided that for those of you that want me to discuss a case, feel free to send me the citation of the case or the name of the case with the citation of the full case so that I could basically feature it on the podcast, because I feel as if I'm the only one that picks a podcast and everyone listens. But if there's anyone out there that feels there's a case you want me to talk about, send me an email at georgemalipilo23@gmail.com, or you can send me a message in my DMs on Facebook, a message relating to this podcast, nothing else, at George Thankyou Malipilo. And if I'll be able to find the case, I will let you know when the episode plays and when I will discuss it, because I feel having the number of people that are listening to the podcast, I'm sure there are people out there that are struggling with a few cases. So let me know, and I will gladly accept your case and will let you know when the case airs. So that is all I wanted to say. I just wanted to assure everyone that the podcast is not dead. The podcast is still alive, and that I just had personal engagements, and also the fact that the podcast has gone through a revamping stage. That is all. I've been your host for this podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time when we get back into the real objectives of the podcast, which is basically just Zambian case law. For now, it has been a pleasure listening to you, and thank you for everyone that has continued listening. We are currently at 925 downloads as I checked. Not that much, but it's more than I had hoped for when I started the podcast, and it's really a moment that I feel proud of myself, that I decided to do something that would help people. I didn't think it would get this far. Back in the day, I just thought we'd have 3 listeners and it would never move. But I'm surprised, and each and every day when I wake up, I'm just seeing more and more people listening to the podcast. So I hope I can do better, and I hope more and more people can tune in. So tell a friend to tell a friend that we are back, and we'll soon be uploading some content relating to Zambian cases. So enough said, I am out. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to My 2 Cents, a Zambian case law podcast with me, George Thankyou Malipilo. Thank you very much. Bye.